Bienvenidos to Season 3 of Humans in Accounting podcast. In a world full of AI, automation, and endless workflows, we pause for a moment to focus on the real humans behind the numbers. Founders, leaders, humans share their journey, what drives them, and the moments that shape their path. Because behind every balance sheet, there's always a story worth telling. Humans in Accounting is brought to you by South Offices. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Humans in Accounting, where leaders, humans share their story behind these spreadsheets. I'm Alex Roman, as you know, your host, and this podcast is brought to you by South Offices, connecting accounting talent across borders. Today, I'm super happy to have Tracy. Tracy as a guest. Tracy Brantingham. She's the CEO at Building Profits LLC. Tracy, nice to have you here in Humans in Accounting. How are you?
I'm good, Alex. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for joining. The truth is that we never met physically. How did we get in touch? We were introduced by someone. I don't remember.
Mike Payne on LinkedIn had talked about you guys using you. And when we were exploring doing some global team additions, I reached out, spoke to you, and that's how we met the first time.
That's right. That was probably last year, through Mike Payne, a good friend of mine. So, well, that's great. And well, now a year later or something like that, you're here, I guess, of Humans in Accounting. I don't know if you know, but this is the only podcast in the entire world that is hosted by an Argentinian man who talks with humans in accounting. I just want to be special. No, I can't just go with the So that's it. Tracy, I want to know a little bit more about building profits, but maybe you could tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up, being the CEO. I'm interested in that story to begin with.
How it came to be. Well, I've worked in architecture and design for on and off for about 18 years. And then I moved back to Northern Nevada. That was in Southern California. Moved back to Nevada and moved to the construction side, which was new to me. But job costing has basically been my adult life moved to the construction side, worked for a company for about 9 years here. And I had said to the owners multiple times, your business, your decision, your business, your decision. Well, if I want to make the decisions, I just need to have my own business. So I decided to venture out on my own and started with the intention primarily focused on construction, which is a large sector of what we do. But I wanted to help the small guy who has the same needs as the big guy. They just don't need a full-time person, but they need somebody who has the knowledge and the understanding of all of the pieces that go behind construction accounting, because there's a lot of administrative functions in addition, but are tied into the accounting. So that's how it started. I had like 3 clients when I first decided to leave my full-time job and that safety net. And I started going to BNI and doing, networking and things like that. And I got to the point that was December when I left. October, I started, had the clients, left the job in December. May, I had said to my husband, I am the primary income earner. He is disabled. And I was like, if I don't get some more clients, I'm going to have to go get a real job.
Right.
And right after that, the BNI connection started to pay off. And by October, the following year, so 1 year in, I had my first office and I hired my first employee. So networking is important, and that's just how it came to be. And then it has exploded into not just construction. We do quite a bit of medical. We do quite a bit of property management, real estate. And then we have a whole bunch of legacy one-offs. I don't like niching down to just one. I understand the scaling is easier when you have one industry and one set of processes.
Right.
But I am very customer service centric, and it's
Right.
very important to me that we meet the clients where they are and then help them develop better processes, develop better systems, get the right software. where it might not be, I have everybody on one specific construction software and that's all we use. And if you come to us, you have to be on QBO, you have to use Gusto, you have to use this software. I like the variety, and my team seems to really like the variety of learning all different kinds of things. And I think we're capable, we're very technology forward. So I think it's more important to help the client find the right solution for them than forcing them to use our solution.
I agree a thousand percent with what you've said. I have a few follow up questions. First, I want to go back to those three. You said that you had the first three clients. I'm curious, and I want to know like how you ended up having like the first one. Was it because you were working with them and say, hey, maybe you can help me out, or I'm curious.
The first one I actually had been doing for a while. They knew them through the job that I had for a millwork company. He was his own work company. We used him for some of our specific projects that we were doing. So he also was a union contractor, but very small, and asked, hey, could you help us with our union payroll? So it started out just helping them with payroll. Then it ended up helping them with everything, but they were very tiny. The owners of the company that I worked with knew I was helping them and working with them alongside. So they came with me. And then I had let my son's, it was a connection through my son. He's a CPA now. He wasn't at the time, but it was another CPA. And I said, hey, I really want to go out on my own. I had some business cards made. And I said, if you come across anyone, let me know. So I got a 2-for-1. That was my other two clients. One of the clients was the client of this CPA. And he said, I don't like the bookkeeper that we have. We need to do something different. So he handed him my card and said, here, call this gal. And so
Right.
he called me. Well, he and another contractor had been sharing a bookkeeper. And
Mhm.
so then Ray decided he wanted to leave. He was like, I'm done with what we're doing. I want a new bookkeeper. I'm leaving. So then I had to go meet with the other guy's CPA and go through that process. So they both came together as a 2-for-1. The one who initially started it has since sold his business. The other contractor is still my client today. And we will
Really?
be in business 10 years this coming up.
I was going to ask you that. So well, incredible. I love when that first client is still a client. That means that definitely you guys are doing something yeah, good. So very good in that. Okay, and you mentioned that you don't like just or maybe you like just to serve not a specific niche or a specific industry, but at the same time, I feel that there are maybe one or two industry, definitely construction, where you have more experience, right? Is it a
That's my
construction?
background. Probably 50% of my business is construction.
Okay,
That is who knocks on our door most often because there's such a complexity to it and an understanding of all the things that go into construction accounting. That is who comes and knocks on our door most often. We also really enjoy concierge medical or doing primary care medical as a membership based model. I really like that a lot as well. We've done quite a few of those. I share a lot of clients with my son, who is not a CPA. So we do work together closely, and that's really nice, but it's nice to be separate. We don't do any tax here. So, but we understand what it is that the tax strategy has been put in place, and here's what we need to do to be able to comply with that and to be able to help the clients. And what's nice is when you have that relationship with the CPA and with the client, when the client's talking to us about random one-off things, we can say, hey, that's something we need to loop in the CPA and let them know this is going on. So that relationship works really well with clients.
okay. That's perfect. That's terrific. Let me ask you. I'm gonna change the subjects now. We do a double click. I want to know more about Building Profits LLC, but this is something, and I don't want to forget this question. This is something that I've been doing since, well, actually not the first episode of season 1, but yeah, on the first season, I started asking my guests here at Human City Accounting, what's their favorite food, and you're not gonna be the exception, Tracy. I want to know, what's your favorite food? If you can pick one, what would
My
that be?
favorite food is is Mexican food, but it's chips and salsa specifically, and I've made it its own food group.
Okay, okay. Chips and salsa,
Chips and
like
salsa. I could
chips and
eat that
salsa.
lunch, dinner. Love salsa, and I like chips and salsa. That's my favorite food, hands down.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you for answering me that one. You are located in Reno, I want to say, in
Rena,
Reno, Nevada, right? I've never been. I only been to Vegas. Is it Reno? Wait, in Reno, it sounds so familiar. Is
Reno
it
is
like,
near Lake Tahoe, so we're about 8 hours north of Las Vegas on the California Nevada border.
whoa, 8 hours, but it's still in Nevada, right? Yes.
Yep, yep. So Lake Tahoe borders it sits on top of California and Nevada. So we're on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe, but we're very close to the California border. Drive 40 minutes and I'm in California.
Okay, and do you have offices? Everyone in Building Profits, do they work remotely? Some they go to the office. Do you have an office? I want to know.
So I we have a physical office. I personally would die if I had to work from home. I am an extroverted accountant. I need to be around people. I get energy from being around people. There's a couple of us that are in the office 5 days a week. And then what I have found works for the team overall and people I seem to get good response is the hybrid. So we have 2 team members that are global and then everybody else is local here and they're all in Northern Nevada, but they like to work about 3 days in the office, 2 days from home is what we've kind of landed on. And we're officially moving to that. We've had a little variety of that, but we're moving to that beginning of May, where everyone is in the office 3 days a week. 1 day a week is mandatory. So everybody's here together. And then the other 2 days they can float. They have to work amongst themselves, the seniors and the rest of the technical staff to make sure that there's somebody's here every day and it's covered any client needs immediate, hey, I need a check or hey, I need this something if it's a local client, that they can get that thing taken care of that day and the client can come in. We have clients who come in for meetings. We do Zoom meetings. We do a
Right.
hybrid model, but I find that that works the best. But I have an office. I want to use it. I find even when I listen to my staff, like I'm sitting in my office and I listen to them in the hallway talking and laughing and chatting, I come from a time where remote work wasn't an option,
Right.
but some of my best friends are from people I met at work. And I feel like, my best girlfriend before I ever got married and had kids, right? She's still my friend today and we met at work. So I do feel that there's just a certain knowledge and a certain that you get from being in person with each other. It's hard to schedule that off the fly conversation. What would you do here? Hey, do you have a minute to talk about this? I know it can be done remotely and I know a lot of firms successfully manage remote. If I had to work from my home, would just die. Like I would be so miserable and so unhappy. And I think my team ranges in age from 27 to 60. I'm 60. I'm the oldest one here.
Hmm.
So it's I almost think the younger generation is craving because they went through COVID and they had that isolation. They like their time to themselves, but they like that camaraderie and being together sometimes. And I find that that's the type of person I'm looking for that's happy with that combination.
That's super interesting. As you already know, we here at South Offices we do nearshore and we help mainly accounting firms find talent in Latin America. However, I can relate with what you're saying. I think that it's important. Yeah, just when you're not working and if you go just to have a coffee and if you are able just to see your coworker that you work with every single day and you're gonna have that small talk of, hey, how was your weekend? That's something that definitely you can, or it's harder while having it if you are remote. But at the same time, it's also true that maybe there is a talent in New York and Birmingham, Alabama, or in Buenos Aires in Argentina, then maybe they're just great and could help you. And since they're not in Reno and Nevada, they just can't do it. So But I think it's super interesting. I think it depends on the culture of each company. It does not mean that one is better or the other one is worse. But yeah, in my personal life, I had everything. Like at some point, I was working for other companies where when I was an employee, and I had just to go to the office. And some cases I said like, "Hey, why do I need just to go every single day?" And then in other cases, when I never go to an office, I say, "Hey, I miss just going to the office." So that's why it also makes sense
And
that
I
a
think
hybrid.
the hybrid model works well for most people. And I, I have the age ranges. So 27, I've got, 39, 40s, and then I've got one that's closer to my age. And we're the older two are the ones that are in the office every day. I think that's how we were raised, right, in the workplace. And so we're used to it. And we're both extroverted people. So we like that people time, right?
Right,
So,
right.
and you got to balance, right? Like I can get up and be very disruptive too because I'm talking all the time, right? So I have to keep that to a minimum. So I'm
And
not disrupting the workflow either, right? So
and Tracy, let me ask you now that you mentioned that you're an extroverted. Do you go like to events from either accounting or constructions or just to find clients? Or is that something that you go to physical events?
I do, I only go probably 2 or 3 times a year to conferences. I went to Scaling New Heights the last couple of years. I don't think I'm going to go this year. I think I'm going to go to Bridging the Gap instead. Um, at the end of July, I'm kind of waiting to see how this TSA stuff works here in the US with our airports are kind of a mess right now. But I went to a job trade conference in January, which was specifically for construction software. I enjoyed that a lot. I like conferences because I am the extrovert and I like to talk to people and I learn lots of information about all different kinds of things. So what I'm trying to work on this year and in the coming next year as well is really being selective about being at conferences where the clients are, as well
Hmm.
as doing 1 or 2 conferences that are for me as the firm.
Okay. Okay. I
I
was
went to
actually the last
Deeper Weekend last year, and that was great too. Very
Deeper
small.
weekend last
That was
year.
through Thrival with Jason Blummer.
Yes,
And I
I was
don't
not
know if
last
there's
year. I was the year before Deeper Weekend. I like that one. I was in the last two of Scaling New Heights. Unfortunately, we haven't met there. Bridging the Gap. I've never been. I don't know. Everyone that went there, have you been to Bridging the Gap already? Yes, you have. Oh, all right, because everyone that went told me like, hey, this one is the best one that I have. Like now, yeah, I'm gonna stop. I'm actually the one who's usually traveling just to events. In our case, yes, most of accounting firm owners. So it's a place where I can find a client. So that's why we do it. But yeah, I'm gonna stop actually for next few months, and probably the next one I'll be going. It's gonna be in Vegas. Do you go to Intuit?
I have not, and I was going to go last year and then tag it on to a trip to Grand Cayman, but I decided to just extend my Grand Cayman trip instead because I went to Deeper Weekend. So I chose that one over the Intuit Connect. Um, but I might go this year. I'm not sure.
Okay, okay. If you end up going and I end up going, we'll definitely see each other. And if not, I'm sure there's gonna be an event where we meet personally. Let me ask you one of the question that I'm interested in this 10 years that you've been working. Well, if I ask you for a milestone or an achievement that when you started with those three clients, you never thought that you would actually get, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Well, what's the, I don't know to say, if the biggest achievement or the biggest milestone you got in these um
I
10
think
years?
there are 2, but the biggest one was moving from hourly billing to monthly recurring revenue. Took me about a year and a half, definitely out of my comfort zone. Again, kind of coming from an old school process, right? How we were doing things when I started this business and how we're doing things today are completely different.
Right.
But about, say now it's about 3 years ago is when I started moving to monthly recurring revenue. And that was a game changer because I'm no longer worried when I onboard a new staff that they've got to be billable right away, right? Like it just gave us a little more room to breathe. Some pricing I got right, some pricing I got wrong. It's more,
Yeah.
but that's part of the exercise, right? And learning. And I think the next milestone, which we're kind of in the middle of now, but the milestone was hiring an outside operations company. We use a lot of assessments around here. We like assessments, so we've done some AccuMax, we've done aptitudes assessments, but we use a working genius quite a bit. And we have no I's and we have no G's in our office. We have a whole lot of enablement and tenacity and several wonders and discernments, but we don't have any galvanizers and we don't have any new idea people. So the operations company has brought the I. We still are looking for the G, which is that galvanizer to rally the troops. It's in some of our competencies, but it's not our genius, right? Somebody who's really a true galvanizer. Hiring the outside operations company, it's really interesting because I did the monthly recurring revenue. We were doing quite well. We kind of hit a wall, lost some clients, I think, because of price, and kind of started sliding down the wall. And at that point, I was like, okay, we have to change something. And it really is, we don't have that internal structure. So hiring the operations company, which is Human at Scale, Chase Damiano's company, has been really amazing. We started the end of last October and we're still in it, but we're making so many small improvements every week over week, that we're starting to see things come together. And it really is really wonderful. So I think that's an accomplishment to get that process started. We're not at the end yet, but we now have, it's easier. It's easier to bring staff on. It's easier because it's not all sitting here and we're getting it out. Uh, and letting the team have that autonomous decision making is important so that truly the company, I can focus on bringing more clients in and less in the day-to-day weeds with the clients. I'm still doing that now, but we're working slowly to get ourselves out of that, moving to a pod structure, just creating an internal structure for the company so that we can scale, because we do intend to grow. That's our intention.
It's great, Tracy, that I asked you for two milestones, and you mentioned one that you got right at the beginning, or you said a year and a half, and the other one, it's something that you're doing now with Chase and Human Scale. Shout out to him. But it's now like you're actually doing it now, so I think it's great. Those two milestones, and well, that's great. That's inspiring. Let me ask you plans for the future. Well, you already mentioned you're planning just to keep on growing, to scale. What are the next things that you have in mind for the future?
So we are now working on our org structure and creating the leadership team and creating a pod structure. The goal is we have a big goal at the end of this year, basically to double our revenue from January of this year to December of this year. So we hit our first quarter goals. Now we've got a little bit bigger bite for quarter two. So we'll see how that goes. But that's the intention, is to get to double our revenue. When I met with Chase, I told him I would like to get the company to 3 million in top line revenue a year, but I also need to improve my margins. So that's the kind of twofold things that we're doing. I think it's doable. I think our goal this year is doable. It's not 3 million this year, but to get close to 2 is our goal this year. And then we'll see what happens from there. Chase says, I think you can go for 5. I'm like, great, let's do it. You got to how do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time.
Right,
And that's,
right.
I'm learning I have to slow down in order to be able to speed up, right? You have to stop and look at the things and get the things in order before you can go to that next big thing. And then last night I read an article on LinkedIn from Ian Vason and Jason Plummer. I do like their book, Scale Scale with Purpose. But he was talking about what type of owner are you? And it was entrepreneurial, calculated, or I forget what the first one was. It's like 50% of the people are entrepreneurial. And then find what your firm size is, and then it'll tell you kind of where your mindset is, which is onwards and upwards. And I would say that's my mindset. And I'm also determined. But at the same time, he talked about how you can feel overwhelmed and you can't live in that overwhelmed place very long or you don't move forward. So I am very determined and I'm excited. Like I've been doing this for 10 years and I'm still having fun figuring these things out and getting the company to a place where we can scale and grow and give my team who's been with me the opportunity to also grow within the company structure.
I feel it's so important just to have fun, to learn while you're doing all this. If not, it's kind of like it loses the purpose. Well, why are we doing this every single day if we're having a bad time doing whatever we're doing? So yes, and I have the same mindset, and we try to do this the same here at South Offices. No, one last one. I want to ask you maybe for a piece of advice for someone in the future watching this podcast, in YouTube or Spotify or Apple or wherever they're watching this. Maybe they're just listening. Maybe they're considering, starting their own business. Maybe it's an accounting firm. Maybe it's a bookkeeping. Maybe it's a business that has nothing to do with accounting, but they're just doubting it whether just to do it or not. What would be that piece of advice you could give them with experience that you have, Tracy?
I think you have to have the gut for risk, right? Because with risk comes downsides and upsides. So you have to have the gut for that. Not everybody is built for that. And if you're not built for that, so know yourself. If you are built for risk, go for it. I think for me, what was very helpful when I started this, I was really by myself. I didn't know any other bookkeeping service firm owners. I don't think here in Reno there's a terribly large contingent that wants to share. I'm happy to share anything I've learned over the 10 years with anyone. And like my son, CPA, had another fellow CPA who decided to go out on his own and start a firm with a partner, but he wanted to have lunch with me and just to pick my brain. And so we had spent 2 hours just talking about all the things that I've learned, right? And
Right.
I'm happy to share that information with anyone. I think community is really important. And I think having a coach or a mentor is important. I kind of went, it was funny because Chase posted something on LinkedIn and I talking about consultant experiences. I started with a business coach who was a former client. And that was really great because she pushed me out of my comfort zone. Initially at the hourly, she was encouraging me to raise my rates, which I did. I didn't want to, but it was the best thing I did. And eventually, things happen, paths diverge. And then joined the Woodard community. And the Woodard community was really helpful in getting me to move to the monthly recurring revenue. It was that. And I've met people through that community that I treasure. And so meeting fellow firm owners and going to scaling was really, really helpful for that. But just meeting people, making those connections, knowing you're not alone, knowing that you're trying to figure it out just like the person sitting next to you. And then after that, we tried to move away from carbon to ClickUp and that did not go well, but that was because of us. We did not have internal processes. We didn't have a building profits way of doing anything. Every senior was doing things in their own silo, their own way. So that's where we need to get this. We need to create a playbook. And that's where Chase has come on board.
Right.
And just going to different conferences and I've met different people and I've made contacts. I laugh and called Matt Tate from Decimal is my business crush. I listened to all his podcasts after the first million because it is very messy. We hit 1 million a couple years ago, but we've had a really hard time getting getting past that, right? And so I think the community is really important. I would recommend everybody get into a community, find fellow company owners, firm owners that are willing to share and talk to me. And I have a great met Dan Gertrude's last year at Deeper Weekend, and I love chatting with him. And he's also willing to share. And so it's just it's been great. The community that I have met through going to some of these conferences, belonging to some of these communities has been amazing. And I highly recommend any firm owner get involved.
This is humans in accounting, so definitely we talk about accounting. But I think that an essential part of us human beings, it's being in community, like to be able just to share, to learn. So this applies again. If for some reason you are an architecture and you happen just to be watching this in the future, I think that that advice you said, Tracy, it applies to anyone who is human. If you are an AI watching this, maybe it does not apply for you, AI, but for human beings, I'm sure it does. Tracy, last one. Someone after hearing all this, now they want just to reach out with you and they want to have a call with you, or they want to talk with you, have lunch, even if they're in Reno. What's the best way just to reach out to you, Tracy?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Tracy Brantingham. We also have a Building Profits LLC page, but you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can email me, Tracy B, TRACYB at buildingprofits with an S.net.
Perfect. I'll make sure when we publish this episode, I'll lend your contact information so that people can reach out. Tracy, it was super nice. I'm super happy that we made this episode together. Super looking forward just to see you if it's, I don't know, scaling anywhere, maybe even in Buenos Aires if
Maybe
you
Into a
happen just to
Connect.
be.
Maybe we'll go. I would love it if I could take my whole team to Into a Connect. I think it would be great. I will have to see if that can happen. I think it would be really good for everybody.
Well, if that's the case, I'm super happy if we can do that. And if not anywhere else, Tracy, thank you so much for joining and being part of Events in Account.
Thank you, Alex. It was a pleasure. All right. Bye.